It's an autumn day. It's a bit cool today and a bit wet. So I've got the fire going and I'm going to do a little bit of quilting to show you how to make a stained glass window quilt. Welcome to Create, Quilt and Make with Kate. Today I wanted to show you how to make a stained glass window quilt. This one's definitely a work in progress, and I just would like to show you today the techniques used to make it and how to make it your own. I'm using these small denim squares today as part of the demonstration, and I'm just going to make a small panel, and then you'll have enough information to be able to go on and extend it so that you use the different sizes, as you can see I have used in this one. Anyway, let's get to it. So this is a practice one that I did just to see how it would all work and how the math worked, and you can see that I've also stitched on it and embroidered on it as well. So there's a bit of a close-up for that one too. So the mathematics behind it is multiples of 3 basically. So starting with a 1.5 inch square, the next one is 3 inch, the next one is 6 inch, the next one is 9 inch. And despite the fact that Australia uses metric measurements for most things, when you're quilting it's much easier, even in Australia, to use inches, and that's because a lot of the patchworking equipment comes in inches. So you sort of have to work in both metrics, but if you use multiples of 3, then your pattern will work. So when you do the black sashing, the reason you cut it at 1 inch is because when you sew it on, there's 1/4 inch between the raw edge of the fabric and the sewing line, and then there's 1/4 inch back to the halfway point and another 1/4 inch to the next sewing line, and then 1/4 inch back. And so with a 1 inch, it means that the denim squares are actually butting up against each other underneath, and the black sashing that goes between them has the 1/2 inch in between, made up of the 2/4 inch seam allowances, and that's why the multiples of 3 work. So when you're cutting out your sashing, you cut it out to 1 inch, and I'll show you how to do that on the board in a minute using the quilter's ruler. So when you're cutting the black cotton drill, if you fold it in half, so the 2 selvage edges are here and I folded it in half, and then I folded that in half again. And I find that if you cut the 4 pieces together as one cut, it's much easier than cutting one long line. So you put your quilter's ruler out on the top, and we're just going to cut 1 inch. Make sure you use your ruler correctly, looking at the right side. I like to use the Alpha brand blades and mat. I have used others in the past, but I was never happy with them. And since I've discovered Alpha, I find that the Alpha combination of the mat and the blade work really well. I tried the Alpha blade, the rotary blade, on one of the green cutting mats at one point, and I just wasn't happy with it. It didn't work, but now the Alpha on the pink mat with the quilter's ruler works beautifully for me. So I've got a 1 inch strip. I'm going to cut one more today. Let me just put that on here. Hopefully you can see, yes. And holding it still, cutting one more. I often use my kitchen bench for cutting long strips. I find the work height is good, and because I can stand over it, it's better than working on my sewing desk. And sometimes I do bring my sewing machine out to the kitchen table, which I've done today. So I'm going to show you how to use these 1 inch strips. And just a reminder that the cutting of these, in fact that's a 1.5, and then 3, and then 6, 9 and 12, and those are our square measurements today. So I'm ready to sew now, and I've chosen these squares to put together. So I have 1.5 and 1.5, which of course added together makes 3 inch, and those ones are the same. So I'm going to sew these into a square first, and then I'm going to add this one on. Then after I had done that, if you wanted to, you could then go 1.5 plus 1.5 is 3, and another 3, so that would be 6. So you could join a 6 inch square on this one, and then you'd have 3 and 6 is 9, so then you could do your 9. And you can add other combinations, of course. But to start the process, I'm going to find some of my strip, and in folding it the way we did, it means that we get a whole strip right across from selvage to selvage. When you go to start using it, it's best to cut off the selvages. So you just cut those off, and if you cut them off in a long line, then you can actually reuse those and recycle them as pieces to make string. And if you look at one of my other videos, you can see that already as well. So your drill fabric has a right side and a wrong side. I'm putting the right sides together here and cutting off a piece that's the same length as one of my squares, and then I'm going to sew on the drill side. I'm using the red line on my machine, which is the 1/4 inch seam allowance, and by doing 1/4 inch seams I know that everything's the same size. I don't have to use pins, and I don't have to measure. So here we go with this one. So I'm going to sew that one to this one, and I'm going to do this one here now too, and then I don't have to cut the pieces in between. So again, I'm putting right sides together, cutting off a piece the right length, sewing on the drill side, and I'm actually going to add a piece to this one as well. And that means I can just keep my chaining of machine stitching happening. If you were doing a whole quilt, you could have quite a number of these laid out ready to go. Okay, so I'm going to stop there, remove these. Oops, maybe you can't see. Might be better. Removing my leader. The leader is just a scrap of fabric that's used to hold the thread so that it stays in position and saves thread, I suppose, too, and saves time. All right, so this one's going to join onto this one. So now I'm going to put this square on top of that one. Again, I'm going to sew on the sashing side, on the drill side, making sure that the squares line up okay. The process is actually fairly forgiving. You could use a sewing machine to press them, and probably the result would be a little bit better than the way I'm doing it today, but I'm only doing a small section today, but I'm just finger pressing. The next thing I'm sewing together is these two. Again, sewing from the drill side. Cutting these apart, just using the device on the machine. And then what I have now is two sets of squares that are joined together with the sashing in between, and I'm going to join those together. So I need to put a piece of sashing in between. So first of all, I'm going to finger press them so that the denim is flat and it's the drill binding that bends. So you can see the seams have been pushed towards the middle. And then when I put it together, I want the light blue and this square to be opposite each other. So I'm going to put the strip on that side there. So again, finding my drill, right sides together, cutting off a piece the right length, making sure my seams are pushed towards the center. I'm going to use an ender on that one. Now I have a sashing piece on that one, so I can join this one together now. So right sides together, making sure again my seams are on the inside. Holding it nice and straight. Using another ender. This one can come off too. So now I have 4 bits together with a sashing in between and a bit of fluff. And because I already sewed this onto here, then I can match those up and join that one on there. Again, sewing from the drill side. And so then I have this little panel made. And so what you would do then is decide which direction you were going to go. If you were going to add on to this side above, you'd sew another piece of the sashing along this side, and then you have 3, and these two add up to 3, so you could use a 6 or you could use 2 3s or whatever combination that you liked. You can use it as table mats, you could make a bag out of it, you could use it for a full quilt, you could use it for a piece of like an upholstery on a piece of furniture. Yeah, you could use all sorts of things. Yeah, thanks for watching.